Welcome to Zoe Crossdressing. People say jokes carry hidden truths. If that's true, then one careless comment didn't just embarrass me, it cracked open something I'd spent years burying. Maybe it didn't ruin my life. Maybe it revealed it. My name is Ethan. I'm 27, a junior legal analyst with a life that looks painfully ordinary from the outside. Small apartment. Long workdays. Weekend takeout. A girlfriend everyone insists I'm lucky to have. Ava. She has the kind of confidence that shifts the atmosphere of a room the moment she walks in. Quick wit, sharper memory, and absolutely no patience for being underestimated. We met at a coworker's party 2 years ago. She laughed at my awkward humor, and I fell for her faster than I'd like to admit. Back then, I thought love meant editing yourself, trimming away anything that didn't fit the picture. I know better now. The apartment we shared wasn't big, but it was curated. Neutral tones, minimalist furniture, everything intentional, mostly her intention. Ava believed surroundings shaped behavior. Disorder created weakness. I usually agreed, partly because disagreeing with her felt like stepping in front of a moving car. There was one area she never touched. My closet. It stayed locked with a cheap metal latch I claimed protected important documents. She never questioned it. That trust weighed on me every night, because inside weren't papers or valuables. There were clothes. Dresses. Blouses. A fitted skirt. A pair of heels I'd bought on a business trip and smuggled home like contraband. Nothing flashy, just ordinary pieces that felt forbidden against my skin. I didn't wear them often. Not because I didn't want to, but because wanting to felt dangerous. I wasn't chasing attention. I wasn't experimenting for excitement. Those moments just felt right. Like the world quieted enough for me to finally hear myself breathe. And that terrified me. The joke happened on a Friday night. Wine open. Music low. Ava leaning against the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone while ranting about contract loopholes and how people sign things without reading them. I teased her, saying she sounded like a courtroom villain. She raised an eyebrow. Oh. And what would you never sign, Ethan? I shrugged, already tipsy, already careless. Anything that makes me your maid. The word hung in the air. Ava's smile changed, not amused, but intrigued. A maid, she repeated slowly. That's oddly specific. I laughed it off. Relax. It's a joke. She didn't laugh. Instead, she opened her laptop and started typing. You know, she said casually, verbal agreements can become binding under certain circumstances. I rolled my eyes. You're impossible. And you're reckless, she replied, still typing. Tell you what, if I draft something and you sign it, you prove you trust me. A knot formed in my stomach. It's a joke, Ava. So is this. She turned the screen toward me. The title made my pulse jump. Domestic Service Agreement. I should have stopped it right there. Should have laughed louder. Walked away. But the wine dulled my instincts, and somewhere deep down, curiosity tangled with fear. What happens if I don't follow it? I asked. Her smile was calm. Too calm. Then we'll have a different conversation. Relax, she added. It's symbolic. A power exercise. You analysts love hypotheticals. I skimmed the document, chores, structure, language about obedience that felt theatrical enough to dismiss. Then one line caught me. Uniform requirement, to be determined by employer. My heart skipped. That part isn't funny, I said. Ava studied my face closely. You're blushing, she murmured. Interesting. I swallowed hard. Sign it or don't, she said, leaning back. Your choice. The room felt smaller. The air thicker. And I made the worst decision of my life. I signed. The next morning, the wine haze was gone. The contract wasn't. Ava slid an envelope across the table while I drank coffee. First day, she said. Inside was the printed agreement, signed, dated, official. You're not serious, I whispered. Oh, I am, she replied calmly. And before you panic, this stays between us. But a contract is a contract. She stood, walked toward the bedroom, then paused. By the way, she added casually, I picked something out for you. My chest tightened. My closet door was open. She reached inside and pulled out a simple black Maid dress, modest, structured, white trim along the edges. Not a costume. A declaration. Tonight, Ava said, her voice unreadable, you clean. Her heels clicked down the hallway like a countdown. I stood there, frozen, heart racing, staring at the dress that suddenly felt like it was staring back at me. That was when it truly sank in, this had nothing to do with a joke anymore. It was about control. About identity. About a part of me Ava had somehow recognized before I was ready to face it myself. And I couldn't tell which terrified me more, the risk of being exposed, or how deeply I wanted to follow through. After she left, I stayed alone in the apartment for a long time. The maid dress was spread across the bed, perfectly arranged, almost as if it had been waiting there long before last night ever happened. Black fabric with crisp white trim, neat and deliberate. There was nothing playful about it. No humor. Just expectation. I told myself I wouldn't wear it. Told myself that when she came back, I'd laugh, tear up the contract, remind her she'd crossed a boundary. But my hands moved anyway. That frightened me more than anything. I locked the bedroom door out of habit, even though no one else was home. The same ritual I'd followed every time I'd opened my hidden closet back when this part of me was private, contained. I undressed slowly, shirt, jeans, socks, each piece feeling like it belonged to a version of me that survived by pretending. The dress was heavier than I expected. Structured. Intentional. I pulled it over my head, the fabric brushing my shoulders before settling against my torso and waist. It fit in ways my normal clothes never did, acknowledging lines I usually ignored. I inhaled sharply. The mirror across the room reflected someone unfamiliar. Not a joke. Not someone playing around. Someone shaped by rules. My legs felt exposed, vulnerable. I hated how aware I was of them, how my pulse spiked when I shifted and the hem moved slightly. This is just clothes, I whispered to myself. My body didn't agree. The first task was simple, clean the living room. The contract hadn't specified tone, but it didn't need to. I could almost hear Ava's voice in my head, precise, observant, waiting. I grabbed the spray bottle and cloth, crouched to wipe the coffee table. That's when it hit me. This wasn't only about wearing the dress. It was about being seen in it. Even alone, my posture changed. My movements became smaller, more careful. The way my knees angled together when I crouched. The unconscious adjustment of the skirt when I stood. Every motion felt like it was rewiring something. I caught my reflection in the dark screen of the TV and froze. The person staring back didn't look humiliated. They looked focused. That realization twisted my stomach. Halfway through cleaning, my phone buzzed. Ava, status update. My heart jumped. I stared at the message, thumb hovering. What was she expecting? I typed. Deleted. Typed again. Me, living room almost done. The typing indicator appeared instantly. Ava, good. Uniform fits? I swallowed. Didn't respond. A few seconds passed. Ava, Ethan. Don't lie to me. My fingers moved before I could overthink it. Me, yes. Pause. Then. Ava, send a picture. The room seemed to tilt. My chest tightened painfully. This wasn't part of the joke. Maybe it had never been a joke at all. I paced, phone shaking in my hand. My reflection followed every step, the skirt shifting with each movement like a reminder of the choice in front of me. I could refuse. I could stop this. Instead, I lifted the phone. No face, just the dress, my legs, my hands holding the cloth. I pressed send before I could change my mind. The typing bubbles appeared. Disappeared. Then. Ava, interesting. One word. That was enough to make my knees weak. She came home earlier than I expected. I was still wiping the kitchen counter when I heard the key in the lock. Panic surged instantly. I looked down at myself, the dress, bare legs, apron tied snugly, and my mind screamed to run. There was nowhere to go. The door opened. Ava stepped inside, removing her shoes slowly, deliberately, like she was savoring the moment. Her gaze moved across the apartment, then landed on me. Silence. Not shock. Not anger. Evaluation. I stood frozen, cloth clenched in my hand, heart pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it. She walked closer. Circled me once. I felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with skin. You didn't rush, she said quietly. Good. I couldn't bring myself to look at her. This wasn't supposed to feel like this, I whispered. Ava stopped directly in front of me. Like what? I hesitated, searching for a word that didn't make me sound ridiculous. Real. She lifted my chin with a single finger, forcing me to meet her eyes. Her voice dropped, quieter but firmer. Ethan, it is real. That's why it matters. Her gaze flicked briefly toward the mirror, then back to me. And you're doing beautifully. Something inside me fractured in that moment. Not fear. Not relief. Recognition. That night she added another rule. You don't change unless I tell you to. I nodded before my brain had time to object. Later, lying awake in bed, the dress folded carefully over the chair and the contract resting on the nightstand, I realized the most dangerous part of all this wasn't that she held control. It was that some part of me was starting to want her to. I didn't sleep. Not because the dress was uncomfortable, it wasn't. Not because I was scared, or at least not only scared. I didn't sleep because one thought kept circling endlessly. What did Ava see in me that I never allowed myself to see? Morning arrived with the sound of her heels against the floor. Measured. Intentional. Never rushed. I stayed still as she moved around the bedroom, fabric rustling, drawers sliding, the quiet confidence of someone completely certain of their role. Up, she said. One word. No softness. No cruelty. Just expectation. I sat up, pulse hammering. She handed me something folded neatly. Stockings. My throat went dry. You missed a detail last night, she said calmly. A maid doesn't leave things unfinished. I wanted to argue. Wanted to joke. Instead, I took them. My fingers shook as I rolled the material up my legs. The sensation was immediate, smooth, tight, precise. Every inch of skin suddenly felt noticeable, exposed, accountable. Ava watched without blinking. Stand. I did. She reached forward, adjusting the strap on my shoulder. Her fingers brushed my neck just long enough to make my breath hitch. Look at yourself. I didn't want to. I looked anyway. The reflection no longer felt like a disguise. It felt like training. Breakfast passed in silence. She sat and ate. I stood. The contract hadn't explicitly said I had to, but it felt implied now, like gravity. Something that had always existed, only now I was aware of it. You'll be home today, she said, lifting her coffee. I have meetings. I nodded. Cleaning schedule is on the fridge. Follow it. Another nod. She paused mid-sip. And Ethan, if someone knocks, you answer. My pulse jumped. In this? I asked before I could stop myself. A small smile touched her lips. That depends, she said lightly. Are you planning to break the contract? The knock came at 11:17 a.m. I remember the exact time because my brain clung to it like evidence. I was vacuuming the hallway, skirt shifting with each step, when the sound hit the door, 3 firm knocks. My body reacted instantly. Heart racing. Hands cold. Every instinct screaming to hide. I looked down. Dress. Stockings. Apron. No disguise. No explanation. Another knock, sharper this time. My eyes flicked to the fridge, where the contract copy hung under a rose-shaped magnet. You answer. I walked to the door. Each step felt surreal, like I'd slipped into someone else's life. I opened it. Mrs. Calder from next door stared at me. Her expression moved quickly, surprise, confusion, then something softer, more knowing. Oh, she said. I'm sorry. I thought this was Ava's apartment. My mouth opened. Nothing came out. I could feel myself being seen, fully, unmistakably. Oh, she repeated slowly. You must be helping out. Something in her tone told me she'd already decided what I was. I nodded. Yes, I said quietly. I am. The words felt heavier than they should have. She smiled politely, handed me a misdelivered package, then leaned slightly closer. You wear it well, she murmured. Then she turned and walked away. I shut the door and slid down against it, heart pounding violently. I hadn't been caught. I'd been recognized. And that terrified me more. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Ava, did anyone come by? My fingers hovered before I answered. Me, yes. The typing indicator appeared. Stopped. Then. Ava, and you answered. Not a question. Me, yes. A pause long enough to make my skin prickle. Then the message arrived. Ava, good girl. The phone slipped from my hand. Heat flooded my face. My chest tightened. Part of me recoiled instantly. Another part leaned toward it, shameless, alive. I hated how my knees went weak. I hated how that word stayed with me long after the phone screen went black. That evening, Ava came home carrying a garment bag. She placed it carefully on the bed. I made a decision today, she said. My stomach dropped. She unzipped the bag and pulled out a new uniform. It wasn't the maid dress. This one was sharper, more deliberate, still signaling submission, but with intention instead of novelty. Clean lines. Structured fabric. Something designed, not improvised. This, she said, holding it up, is what you'll wear when we have guests. My voice trembled. You're planning this? She stepped closer, her eyes locking onto mine. No, she said quietly. You are. Then she reached past me and set the contract back on the nightstand. And tomorrow, she added, we renegotiate. In the mirror, my reflection hovered between two versions of myself, who I had been and who I was becoming. For the first time, I understood something unsettling. The contract wasn't tightening around my wrists. It was tightening around my identity. Ava didn't rush the renegotiation. That should have warned me. She waited until dinner was finished, the apartment spotless, every task on the fridge checked off in neat handwriting, my handwriting. Only then did she sit across from me at the table, laptop open, posture relaxed, like an attorney already confident of the outcome. You've been compliant, she said. The approval hit harder than I expected. I kept my eyes lowered. Sit, she added. I sat, still wearing the new uniform she'd chosen for the evening. Softer fabric, longer sleeves, a silhouette that blurred edges instead of exaggerating them. It didn't look like a costume. It looked like a role. I'm not changing the contract to punish you, Ava continued calmly. I'm changing it because pretending this is temporary would be dishonest. My throat tightened. I never said I wanted this permanently. She leaned forward slightly. No, she said. Your body did. Silence filled the space between us. Then she turned the screen toward me. Addendum, identity and presentation. My pulse roared as I read. Designated attire during service hours. Behavioral expectations. Public discretion. Formalized obedience language. And then. Name usage at employer discretion. I looked up sharply. That's not fair. She didn't argue. It's accurate, she said. Fair has nothing to do with it. I pushed my chair back slightly. You're turning me into something. She nodded once. Yes. The certainty in her voice cracked something open inside me. Why? I whispered. Ava closed the laptop gently. Because you were already there, she said. I just stopped you from lying about it. She gave me time. That was the cruelest part. Time to think. Time to imagine leaving. Time to realize how hollow that idea felt. I signed the addendum an hour later. My hand shook more than it had the first time. When I finished, Ava didn't smile. She stood, walked behind me, and rested her hands lightly on my shoulders. From now on, she said softly near my ear, when you're dressed like this, you answer to Alina. The name hit me like impact. I should have rejected it. Instead, I inhaled. Yes, I said, only realizing too late that I hadn't said her name at all. The mistake happened the next afternoon. I was in the hallway adjusting the hem of my skirt now, not hidden or borrowed, when the apartment door opened without warning. Ava's friend Clara stepped inside. She froze. So did I. The silence stretched painfully long. Her eyes moved slowly, taking everything in, the outfit, my posture, the way my hands instinctively folded in front of me. Then she smiled. Oh, she said lightly. I didn't know you had help. Ava appeared behind her, completely calm. We do, she replied. Don't we? Every instinct screamed to deny it. Instead, I heard myself say, yes. Clara tilted her head. And you are? My heart slammed against my ribs. This wasn't in the contract. Ava didn't look at me. She waited. I swallowed. I'm Lena, I said. The name felt real the moment it left my mouth. Too real. Clara's smile sharpened, not cruel, not kind. Curious. Well, she said, stepping fully inside, this just got interesting. That night, alone in the bathroom, I stared at my reflection for a long time. I wasn't searching for Ethan anymore. I was searching for proof that I hadn't gone too far. But the person in the mirror didn't look lost. She looked complete. Frightened, yes. Exposed, absolutely. But not wrong. I lifted my hand and touched the edge of the mirror. This was supposed to be a joke, I whispered. The reflection didn't answer. It didn't need to. She already knew the truth. Clara didn't leave when she said she would. She stayed for wine. For conversation. For observation. I lingered near the kitchen, hands folded, posture instinctive now, trained without being told. Every movement felt magnified, like I was under a spotlight only I could feel. Clara's gaze kept returning to me. Not staring. Studying. So, she said casually, swirling her glass, how long have you been working for Ava? Ava answered before I could. Long enough to understand expectations. Her tone was calm. Dangerously calm. Clara smiled. And do you enjoy it? The question wasn't aimed at Ava. It was aimed at me. My mouth went dry. My pulse hammered in my throat. I felt the weight of the skirt, the tension of the stockings, the unfamiliar awareness in the way I stood. I glanced at Ava. She didn't nod. Didn't warn me. She waited. Yes, I said quietly. The word landed in the room like a confession. Clara let out a soft laugh. Wow. You're committed. Something in her voice made my skin prickle. Then she stood. Let's make this interesting, she said. I'm hosting a small get-together tomorrow night. Just friends. You should come. My stomach dropped. Ava raised an eyebrow. We. You, Clara interrupted, looking directly at me in my uniform. Silence filled the space. That won't be necessary, Ava said coolly. Oh, I think it will, Clara replied. If Lena's real, let her be real. She turned to me. Unless, she added softly, this is just a game you play when nobody's watching. The challenge was obvious. I couldn't breathe. Ava finally looked at me, not commanding. Evaluating. What do you want, she asked. My mind screamed no. My chest whispered yes. My voice shook, but I forced myself to stand straighter. I'll go. Clara's eyes lit up. Ava didn't stop me. That scared me more than anything. The night of the gathering felt unreal. The outfit Ava chose wasn't extreme, but it was unmistakable, elegant, feminine, deliberate. Not something that could be explained away. As she fastened the final button, her fingers brushed my wrist. You can still back out, she said quietly. I looked at my reflection. Lena looked back. If I do, I asked, will this ever stop? Ava didn't answer. That was answer enough. Clara's apartment buzzed with voices, music, laughter, ordinary life. Stepping inside felt like walking into fire. Conversations paused when people noticed me. Not long. Just long enough. Clara took my arm and guided me forward like I was something she was presenting. This is Lena, she announced. Ava's right hand. Eyes moved over me. Smiles formed, some polite, some curious, some sharp. Someone handed me a drink. Someone else complimented my outfit. Each interaction chipped away at my fear, replacing it with something far more dangerous. Belonging. Then it happened. A laugh. A turn. One careless step. My heel caught the edge of a rug. I stumbled. The room gasped. I felt the wig shift slightly, enough for someone nearby to notice, fingers brushing too close to the line I couldn't afford to cross. Time slowed. I saw Clara's eyes widen. I saw Ava across the room, her expression unreadable. I had a choice. Grab it back. Run. End everything. Instead, I straightened. Adjusted. Smiled. I'm fine, I said clearly. The room exhaled. And just like that, the danger shifted. They weren't questioning me anymore. They were accepting me. Later, alone on the balcony, Ava joined me. You didn't flinch, she said. I almost did. But you didn't. I looked at her. You planned this? She didn't deny it. I needed to know, she said, whether this was something you'd defend when it cost you comfort. And? She stepped closer. I think you stopped pretending tonight. My chest tightened. So what am I now? Ava smiled, not cruel, not kind. Honest. Mine, she said. Inside, laughter continued. Through the glass, I could see Clara watching us, her expression knowing. The contract hadn't been the trap. The joke hadn't been the beginning. The real transformation happened the moment I chose not to run. And standing there under the balcony lights, city humming below, I realized something terrifying and true. I hadn't lost myself. I had finally stepped into someone I'd been afraid to become. I didn't want to go back. The drive home was quiet, not tense, not hostile. The kind of silence that presses against your ribs until breathing feels optional. Streetlights streaked across the windows, catching pieces of my reflection as we passed under them. A flash of gloss on my lips. Eyes that looked darker, heavier than I ever remembered. Ava kept both hands on the wheel, posture straight, expression unreadable. I waited for her to speak. She didn't. And somehow, that unsettled me more than any order she'd ever given. When we got back to the apartment, she didn't tell me to change. That absence of instruction felt intentional. I stood in the living room, still dressed, still exposed, while she placed her keys down with deliberate care. Every sound seemed louder than usual, metal against wood, the refrigerator humming, my own pulse echoing in my ears. Clara's words replayed in my mind. If Lena's real, let her be real. Ava finally turned toward me. You handled yourself well tonight, she said. I nodded, unsure what else to do. I didn't expect that, she continued. Most people fall apart when attention turns into scrutiny. What does that mean? I asked quietly. She stepped closer. It means the contract isn't protecting you anymore, she said. It's reflecting you. My stomach dropped. That was never the deal. She tilted her head slightly. Wasn't it? She walked to the desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a folder, thicker than the one before. She set it on the table between us. I had this drafted months ago, she said calmly. I didn't think I'd ever use it. I stared at the cover. Domestic service agreement, long-term revision. My hands went cold. You planned this before the joke, I whispered. She didn't deny it. I noticed things, she said. The way you looked at certain clothes. The way you tensed when gender came up. The way you softened when you thought no one was paying attention. She leaned in slightly. I didn't create Lena, she said quietly. I gave her structure. I stepped back until the couch pressed against my legs. This isn't fair, I said again, weaker this time. For the first time, she softened just a little. Fairness isn't the question, she said. Consent is. She slid the folder toward me. You can walk away, she said. Right now. No contract. No rules. No Lena. My chest ached at the thought. And if I don't? I asked. Her eyes held mine steadily. Then this stops being private, she said. Clara already suspects. Others will too. If you stay, we control the story. If you leave. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. I looked down at myself. The clothes didn't feel like a disguise anymore. They felt like context. My phone buzzed. A message from Clara. You were incredible tonight. We should talk. Just us. Ava watched my expression change. She's not asking, Ava said calmly. She's claiming. My throat tightened. What do you want from me? I asked. Ava didn't hesitate. Ownership, she said. Honesty. Commitment. Then she did something unexpected. She knelt in front of me. Grounding. Steady. Looking up into my eyes. You don't belong to the contract, she said softly. The contract belongs to you, if you're brave enough to accept what you are. My hands trembled as I reached for the folder. I didn't open it. Not yet. That night, I slept in the uniform. Not because I was told to. Because changing felt like lying. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, Clara's message still unanswered, Ava asleep in the next room. And one truth cut through everything else. The joke hadn't trapped me. The contract hadn't changed me. Choosing not to run had. And now I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't undo. If I sign, Lena becomes permanent. If I don't, I lose control over who tells my story. That was the equation running through my head. 3 choices, none of them simple. Sign, and accept that this wasn't temporary anymore. Walk away, and risk everything unraveling without me there to guide it. Or hesitate, and let someone else decide what I was allowed to be. I didn't sign that night. And somehow, that decision weighed on me more heavily than signing would have. The folder sat on the table between us like a loaded weapon. Ava didn't mention it again. No pressure. No threats. She just went to bed, leaving me alone with the silence and my thoughts. That was worse. Because without her pushing, I had no one to blame but myself. Morning light slipped through the windows, catching the fabric of the uniform I was still wearing. I hadn't changed. I hadn't really slept either, just fragments of dreams where I moved through the world as Lena without hesitation, speaking confidently, being heard. No laughter. No doubt. When I finally stood, my legs felt weak. Not from fear. From decision. I picked up the folder and carried it into the kitchen. Ava was already there, calm as always, coffee in hand. She glanced at the folder, then at me. She didn't ask what I'd decided. Before you open it, she said quietly, there's something you need to understand. I paused. This version doesn't just define what you wear or how you behave, she continued. It defines visibility. My fingers tightened on the cover. Meaning? Once you sign, she said, Lena doesn't disappear when the door closes. My chest tightened. She exists publicly, Ava added. Selectively. Carefully. But undeniably. I swallowed. And if I don't? Ava met my eyes. Then Clara decides what becomes public first. The threat wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I opened the folder. Each page felt heavier than the last, schedules, expectations, presentation guidelines, language that no longer framed this as service but as something closer to identity management. Then one section caught my eye. Clause 11, External Engagements. My breath stalled. Events, Ava explained. Social. Professional. Curated. You want me to attend things like that? I asked. As Lena, she said simply. Yes. Something twisted inside me. Not fear. Anticipation. And realizing that scared me more than anything Clara could do. My phone buzzed. Another message. I'm not patient, Lena. Don't make me curious. Ava watched my reaction. She likes leverage, Ava said. If she can't get it from you, she'll take it from me. And you'd let her? She stepped closer, voice firm. No. But only if we're aligned. She placed a pen beside the folder. This isn't ownership the way you're imagining, she said softly. It's protection. Direction. Power with structure. A bitter laugh slipped out of me. You're very good at this. She didn't deny it. I'm good at recognizing potential, she said. And you're wasting yours hiding. Silence stretched between us. I looked down at the signature line. Ethan Orina. That's when the realization hit. Not signing wouldn't make me free. It would make me exposed. Maybe even hunted. My hand moved before doubt could return. I signed. The pen barely trembled. When I finished, Ava closed the folder and set it aside like the matter was settled. Then she surprised me. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. Not possessive. Not victorious. Grounding. Welcome, she said quietly, to being honest. That afternoon, the first ripple of my decision finally reached the surface. Ava handed me a garment bag. Tonight, she said. Dinner. Small group. Clara will be there. My pulse jumped instantly. You're not hiding anymore, she continued. But you're not exposed either. Remember that. She paused at the door, then added, almost casually. Oh, and Lena. Yes? Clara doesn't get to touch what's mine. A chill ran through me. Not fear. Power. As I dressed, smoothing fabric that now felt earned instead of imposed, a realization settled deep in my chest. The contract hadn't erased Ethan. It had reorganized him. And Lena wasn't emerging anymore. She was stepping forward. Clara chose the restaurant. Of course she did. A place lined with mirrors, where lighting was soft but merciless, where people pretended not to stare while noticing everything. Ava recognized the intention the moment we arrived, but she didn't object. That was her strength. She never reacted first. I walked beside her, heels clicking gently against polished floors, posture held together by equal parts nerves and determination. Heads turned, not dramatically, just enough to feel it settle into my skin. Clara stood the moment she saw us. Her smile spread slowly, satisfaction written all over it. Lena, she said, like she'd been waiting all day to say the name out loud. You look real. Ava's hand rested lightly at the small of my back, subtle, possessive, a reminder. We'll take a table, Ava said coolly. Clara's eyes flicked to Ava's hand, then back to me. Oh, I wouldn't dream of separating you, she replied. This is much more interesting as a trio. Dinner unfolded like a strategy game. Compliments disguised as tests. Questions masked as curiosity. Glances that lingered just long enough to feel intentional. Halfway through dessert, Clara leaned forward. So, she said, do you belong to Ava because you want to, or because you're afraid not to? The table went quiet. I felt Ava's fingers tighten slightly against my back, but she didn't answer for me this time. I set my fork down. I belong, I said carefully, because I chose clarity instead of hiding. Clara laughed softly. That wasn't an answer. It was, I replied, surprising myself with how steady I sounded. Just not the one you wanted. Her eyes sharpened. Good. Let her see me. The confrontation came in the bathroom. Of course it did. Clara followed me in, heels echoing, the door clicking shut behind her. You're wasting yourself, she said bluntly. You could have more freedom. More attention. Less supervision. I met her gaze in the mirror. And what would you want in return? She smiled. Access, she said. Visibility. Maybe a little chaos. My heart raced, not with temptation, but recognition. That was the difference. Ava offered structure. Clara offered exposure. I'm not a secret anymore, I said quietly. But I'm not entertainment either. Clara stepped closer. Careful, she whispered. You don't get to decide that alone. I stepped back. Yes, I said. I do. The door opened. Ava stood there, expression unreadable. Time to go, she said. Behind us, Clara laughed. This isn't over, she promised. I knew she meant it. In the car, Ava finally spoke. You did well, she said. But Clara won't back off. I know, I replied. She glanced at me briefly. Then you understand what comes next. I did. This wasn't just about identity anymore. It was about power. And for the first time, a realization hit me, both unsettling and empowering. Lena wasn't the vulnerable one in this dynamic. She was the prize. Clara didn't wait. That was her nature. People like Ava waited until every piece was positioned perfectly. Clara preferred to flip the board and see who panicked. The invitation arrived the next morning. Not addressed to me. Addressed to Lena. An email, clean, polished, impossible to misinterpret. Subject, panel discussion, identity and authenticity. Location, private gallery. Dress code, formal. Attendance requested. No threats, no teasing, just exposure wrapped in legitimacy. Ava read it once, then again. Her jaw tightened, not with fear, but calculation. She's trying to make you undeniable, she said. Once you're seen there, the story won't belong to us. I swallowed hard. And if I don't go? She'll spin it anyway, Ava said. Nodding slowly, she turned to me. Which means we don't avoid it. We control it. The gallery buzzed softly with voices, curated and confident. White walls held the art, glasses clinked quietly. People knew how to look without staring, but I felt the weight of their attention anyway. Ava stayed close, close enough to anchor me, not close enough to shield me. Clara greeted us like a host welcoming honored guests. Thank you for coming, she said, eyes bright. Lena, you'll speak briefly. Just your truth. Truth. The word landed heavy. I glanced at Ava. She gave the smallest nod. Stand tall. Choose your words. When my name was called, the room fell silent. I stepped forward. Lights warmed my face, my reflection shimmered in the glass. Composed. Unmistakable. I began. I didn't pretend. I didn't erase parts of myself. The words came measured, deliberate, every syllable owned. A murmur rippled through the room, curiosity, respect, acknowledgement. Then Clara moved, phone raised, too casual, too visible. For those who want the full story, before and after, she said lightly. Ava stepped forward. Stop. One word. Commanding. The room froze. She turned to the crowd. There will be no spectacle tonight. Lena's story isn't a reveal, it's a boundary. Clara's thin smile faltered. You don't own her, she said. Ava ignored her. She looked at me, waiting. This was it. No contract, no protection, only choice. I drew a breath and faced the room. There won't be a before, I said clearly. Because I'm not a secret you get to unwrap. And you don't get access just because you're curious. Silence followed, then scattered applause, then genuine acknowledgement. For the first time, Clara was the one exposed. Outside, the night air felt sharp and clean. Ava's voice was quiet. You did that. I almost froze, I admitted. But you didn't, she said. And now she'll escalate. I know, I replied. She studied me, really studied me. Something shifted in her expression. From now on, she said, this isn't about my control. I waited. It's about your authority. The words settled over me like a crown. I wasn't sure I was ready to wear it. Back home, I made a mistake. I checked my phone. A new message was already circulating, clips, commentary, narrative forming without us. Not Clara's. Something bigger. Public. Uncontainable. I looked at Ava, pulse racing. It started, I said. She met my eyes, steady and fierce. Then we stop reacting, she replied. And start leading. The fallout came fast. By morning, Lena wasn't a rumor anymore. She was a name. Clips from the gallery spread. Context fractured into debate, praise, mockery, curiosity. Noise trying to define me before I could. I didn't hide. For the first time, I didn't ask Ava what to do. I asked myself. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same one where a joke had once turned into ink on paper. The folder lay between us again. Ava didn't touch it. You don't need this anymore, she said quietly. I looked at the pages that once felt like chains, rules, clauses, protection masquerading as control. You were right about one thing, I said. Structure helped me stop lying. She nodded. But you don't need permission to be real. Not from Clara. Not from the audience. Not even from you. Ava held my gaze, no anger, no disappointment. Only respect. Then we end it cleanly, she said. She slid the folder toward me. I didn't sign. I tore it in half. Again. The sound felt like air rushing back into my lungs. Clara tried one last time, message, offer, visibility in exchange for access. I didn't reply. Silence was my answer. Weeks passed. Attention softened. What remained was steadier. People listened instead of staring. Conversations replaced speculation. Lena stopped being a spectacle. She became presence. Not owned. Not hidden. Chosen. Ava and I changed too. Control gave way to honesty, and honesty demanded distance. When she moved out, it wasn't dramatic. It was necessary. At the door, she paused. You are never my maid, she said. You are my mirror. I smiled. And now, she replied, you lead. That night, I stood before my own reflection. No contract. No audience. Just me. Ethan didn't disappear. He learned how to stand beside Lena instead of fighting her. And that joke? It didn't ruin my life. It revealed the truth. Finally, I was brave enough to be it.